Admiral Sinha, Maldives continues to do that under Moizu. It's almost like cutting your nose to spite your face. But what do you make of this new airfield that's coming up or that's being talked about in the Minicoy Island in Lakshadweep? Tourism plus strategic importance, fighters in Lakshadweep along with Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Is that a signal being sent out to China? Because that's very clearly unlikely to deter China from undertaking all its operations, whether in Bangladesh or Myanmar or Sri Lanka or now Maldives.
Gaurav, it is only 130 kilometers from the northernmost island called Hanimadu. Hanimadu has got an airfield which the Chinese wanted to increase the length to make it an international airfield. It nearly got given to the Chinese till President Soli came into power. And I think that job is being done by the Indian company. That is number one. Within 130 kilometers, every runway is a dual use, Gaurav. Nothing stops, runways being used by fighters or transport aircraft. So every runway is a dual use. But the point is that it is very close. That island is more than 5.5 square kilometers, which is bigger than many of the islands. And we already have a presence there of some of our Navy for quite some time. And this island, if the Air Force is going to manage, I am sure the fighter aircraft will operate. It will cover the entire archipelago of Maldives. Entire archipelago will get covered. And therefore, for any other country, especially China, they better be warned that any mischief in this area, making it militarized, can harm them. In fact, there were a lot of talks at one time, which was sort of put behind the burners now, that, they wanted to put a radar in Hanimadu.
Yes.
And that radar had a reversed engineer green pine radar with a range of 600 kilometers. It would have put all your entire southern peninsula of India under surveillance, which is not a very good news. And therefore, I am sure that our, diplomacy prevailed at that time. They will prevail again. And they will read the right act to Maldives to not to do anything which is a security concern to India.
In fact, that's the point I was coming to, General Sharma. If China were to set up a listening post or a radar station or start docking their ships the way they're trying to do, and in some instances successfully doing in Sri Lanka, that would adversely impact India's strategic security. Is President Moizu, as head of Maldives, as president of Maldives, adversely impacting India's security in more ways than one, actually?
So, Gaurav, it's a question of democratic dispensation. The people of Maldives elected him as their president. And we have to work with him. We worked with President Musharraf. Didn't we work with Prime Minister Khalida Zia? We worked with Prime Minister Oli. We have worked and we have done extensive amount of work of relationship with any one of our neighbors which were not pretty fond of us. So what? We understand that he's come on a plank which is anti-India, but finally he'll come around to accept it that we are the closest neighbor. And, a country like Maldives, the relationship is well understandable. There have been times we have tough times with Sri Lanka, but we have good relations. Finally, last 2-3 years, we have worked extensively to improve relations with Sri Lanka. We had troubled times earlier. So it's just a way of it. And I don't think we should get overexcited. We are hurt by what the minister said. We must develop Lakshadweep as a place. You can't have within your own country having internal permits to go across to their country. Even Ladakh has opened up. Even Ladakh people can go without permits, and you require a permit to go to your own territory, Lakshadweep, when we can go to Turtuk Tyakshi, which is a 0 point facing Pakistan in Ladakh. We can go there. The civilians can go there. But to go to Lakshadweep, you require a permit. I think we need to have a change of broad policies across here to say that it is open. And of course, we require infrastructure in Lakshadweep. But that does not mean that we should say just because he made a noise and visited China for the first time that we jettison Maldives from our radar. No, that will be incorrect. Our relationship goes through centuries altogether.
Yes.
And also, let me add, I agree with the issue of radicalization. And, Zakir Naik's videos are in India also. In all of our neighbors, Zakir Naik's videos are there. So what? Doesn't matter. We need to say that we have to work through this difficult times now and get around to get the ministers to be to dismissed or removed from the cabinet or whatever it is, to take some stronger action, and he should visit us. I think
You know,
this
since you
statement come
mentioned
out.
radicalization, I want to bring Ambassador Sikri into this conversation on the issue of radicalization. And ma'am, we have those statistics that we are playing out on India Today in the form of graphics. 250 persons from Maldives traveled to Syria to join the Islamic State between 2014 and 18. Majority, so this is data of the US Treasury Department. US in 2023 imposed sanctions on 20 individuals and 29 companies that were providing financial support not just to Islamic State but also to Al-Qaeda groups in Maldives. This radicalization, is this Maldives' worst kept secret and not highlighted enough? Everyone looks at tourism, no one looks at the terrorism.
No, absolutely. Radicalization is a reality. And within Maldives, it is well hidden, because when a tourist goes to Maldives, you only go to a island and you stay there. You don't really move around at all. It's one resort, one island, and you don't have the chance to move around or to meet the people of Maldives at all. So in that sense, tourists are not aware of this, but radicalization is very real, and it has been because of Pakistan, and to some extent, Pakistan acting on behalf of Saudi Arabia over the years, decades. It's not happened overnight. And it's something that we have to realize. But I have always seen that interaction, it doesn't mean that if they're radicalized, you don't interact with them. There is growing radicalization even in Bangladesh. But the answer is to interact more and to bring the people over for studying in your universities. Let them see, because many of these people are not aware of what it is like to live in a pluralistic society, in a society with many religions. So they are cut off in that sense. But I must tell you that the women of Maldives are not so affected by radicalization. They are the ones who are the hard workers. They are the ones who are very open-minded, and they're the ones who are determined to take Maldives forward and to overcome this issue of radicalization. But the combination of radicalization and drugs, this is a very dangerous combination, because the same Pakistan is also bringing in drugs, and it's the same terrible impact of this that is destroying society in Maldives.
And yet radicalization seems to be increasing in Maldives. Admiral Sinha, there was an apprehension that Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed were using some of those uninhabited islands to train people in Maldives and then use them for attacks in southern India. That would be a cause for grave concern for us.
I'm glad you brought me in on this discussion. The Salafi movement in Maldives is very strong and increasing by the day. And this is, even the educated Maldivians are very concerned about this, that it is on the increase. The second thing is, the present president, he is quite, shall I say, forgiving to these elements.
Yes.
Thirdly, his own father, many years ago, he was the first one to get the Salafi preachers from other countries into Maldives. And he was also sort of arrested for doing that. But that has not stopped. It is still on. So that is not a small movement. It's a fairly big movement, and Maldivian people are also extremely worried. So I think that this is one point that you have been making. More than Al-Qaeda, they're all the ideology, the Salafism ideology is increasing, and it's a matter of great concern.
Because General Sharma, in a situation like this, where you have Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror on one of our borders, you have a hostile China on another border, you have this Islamic State ideology in Bangladesh. We've seen a massive terror attack, and fortunately there was a crackdown by the Sheikh Hasina government, and Zakir Naik fled after that. But Zakir Naik, his influence seems to be increasing tremendously in Maldives, and that's a cause for great concern, especially with them studying in India, living in India, coming to India so frequently for medical attention, and those borders or those states are not as well genned up when it comes to this radical Islamist terror, sir.
So that's true. The radical Islam or radicalization of the peoples of Maldives, like many other countries, are a cause of concern to us. We ourselves have some problems of this score within our country. So naturally, radicalization is and we need to address it. And I think one of these good suggestions made by by Mr. Sikri is that we should open up educational institutions in India for children to study in India because of their lack of education institutions in Maldives, as also give medical facilities and things like that. We have to open up with these people to say people should visit us in our country, and that relationship will develop in times to come. So we have to work at it. This is a cause of anxiety, but that cause of anxiety doesn't mean that we do not work to that end.
Oh, absolutely. Ambassador Sikri, just closing comments. The US has a base in Diego Garcia, and we've talked about it very extensively. There are reports that US Secretary of State Antony Blinken was also concerned about these latest developments in Maldives and the China visit of the Maldivian president. How do you look at this, and how do you look at the American role, if any, or this is a region that India needs to address effectively?
No, America is concerned about the Maldives, but America has also decided to increase its interaction with the Maldivian government in recent years. Earlier on, they had very little, and as you said, they had sanctioned so many people. But they have now decided that more interaction is a better option, and they are doing that. They are extremely concerned about the radicalization all around, the Indian Ocean and all in South Asia as well. So this is a matter on which we do talk very much. Counterterrorism talks between India and the US are a very important part of our interaction. So we both share, all these inputs of what is happening in the countries around India. And this is the only way to do it, that we should be aware of it. We should interact with each other, and we should interact with the people as well.
Oh, absolutely. And high time we call a spade a spade. Put facts first, so that then the world realizes what are we dealing with. If we are dealing with somebody who's being subservient to China and anti-Indian interests, then that person needs to be dealt with accordingly. Sir, go on, Admiral Sinha, closing comments, sir.
You know what we need to be very concerned, Gaurav, that you will soon find the Pakistan Navy becoming very active in this part of the world.
Yes.
They have already started exercising last 3-4 days back in the southern Indian Ocean, in the southern Arabian Sea. And China will use Pakistan as a proxy to replace the Indian Navy's jobs which they were doing in Maldives. And this is what should concern us. We will have to keep an eye. The Navy will have to be, very much, they are active. Probably they will have to be concerned, and they will have to keep a very serious eye as to what they're doing. It does reduce our freedom of maneuvering space in that part of the world if you don't have a friendly government. Because all kinds of restriction can be put. You don't come into my EZ, you don't come into my so-and-so. Whereas we have been doing that freely all this while. Yes. And it's a matter of time that the Pakistan Navy will be used as a proxy by the Chinese, and they will be in and around Maldives not very far from now. Just watch it.